Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this extraordinary meeting of the Community and Environment Committee of the District Council. First of all, several officers with me. I'm Councillor Martin Burfoot. Councillor Nick Whitehead is my Vice Chair to my right. And then there's Simon Ashblatts and Simon, who's the author of the report, I suppose I should say. On my left is Kerry France, and who's the Legal Services Officer, or Manager I should say, and Paul Wilson, who's our Chief Executive, and Freya Hunt, who's keeping us all in check in terms of administrative things. Well, thanks very much. Right, the first item on the agenda is apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chair. We've had apologies from Councillor Peter Slack, with Councillor Simon Ripton attending as substitute.
Okay, thank you. And now public participation. There are a number of speakers tonight. Right.
Chair, could I just say a member of the public's asked if they could speak so that they could address the officers as well.
Oh, right. Yeah, I suppose that is an issue, isn't it? I don't know how we can rearrange that, but that's probably an issue if they... I don't know if Freya can organise that. I suppose you can turn the speaker round, but and turn the chair round, but that's about all you can do, I guess, if you want to face both members and officers. Oh, you don't? Oh, right. Okay. Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So yes. Right. Okay. Well, the first question on my list is Graham Elliott to comment on the proposed traveller sites. Yeah. Okay. You want to come forward and take place at this chair, this table, and use the speaker if you switch it on to get the red light. You have 3 minutes to speak, and I'll try to remind you towards the end of that period just to say that you've got to draw your remarks to a conclusion. Okay, thank you.
Chair, for myself and on behalf of Ashbourne Allotment Association, I object to the use of the Ashbourne Depot as a travel.
Has he switched it on?
You pressed the button and turned it off. It was already on. It's on again now. It's off. No.
Not off now.
Yeah, it's on.
Okay. Would you like me to start again, sir?
Yes.
Right, okay, yes.
Chair, for myself and on behalf of Ashbourne Allotment Association, I object to the use of the Ashbourne Depot as a traveller site. Can officers confirm how many pitches that comply with the statutory recommendations for traveller sites actually fit onto the depot site, as it does not appear large enough to accommodate all occupants of the current illegal encampment? If this is the case, what are the proposals for accommodating the excess caravans and vehicles belonging to the travellers? Are they to be allowed to park in front of the Ashbourne Cemetery yet again? What assurances can the council also give that caravans or vehicles obstructing access to the allotments will be removed without delay? The creation of a traveller site on the depot appears to be a desperate attempt to provide a site at any cost which officers have been unable to quantify. It has not been shown where equipment from the depot will be relocated to, or the cost of doing so. One of the proposals is to allow travellers to occupy the depot before any planning application is made to the council, whilst the council expects everyone else to comply with planning laws. It is also proposed that the council ignore a restrictive covenant which Nestles have previously confirmed it will not release. Such action will undoubtedly result in injunction proceedings and legal action which could drag on for years, with untold legal costs and possible orders for costs against the council. Specialist advice is to be obtained by the council at each stage, but at what further cost? No costings for provision of facilities at the depot have been supplied, but councillors are expected to vote on an issue without this information. There are sites at Matlock Bath and Middleton which have been costed but do not involve the risk of legal proceedings. These sites could be progressed quickly and without incurring legal action against the council through injunction or judicial review. Ignoring the rule of law is not the way forward, and behaving like a dictatorship rather than a democratic committee exposes the council to a serious reputational, legal and financial risk, which could result in judicial reviews, civil court proceedings, review by the local government ombudsman, or if the rule of law is constantly ignored, intervention by the Secretary for State for Local Government. There are options available to this committee other than those proposed for the depot at Ashbourne. I would recommend the council take those. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. And now Mark Dinsdale. Right, thank you. You have 3 minutes. If you...
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. My name is Mark Dinsdale and I am a resident at Middleton. I wish to express my disappointment at the outcome of the last meeting of the Community and Environment Committee. This meeting explicitly linked the application for a traveller site at New Road, Middleton, to the current issues in Ashbourne, when one is clearly not a solution to the other. These are two unrelated issues. The passionate and forceful way Councillor Archer influenced the committee is to be admired, and I believe if he represented my own ward, the site at Middleton would have been rejected long ago. However, the sensible amendment to remove the site at Middleton and focus on finding a permanent site was then defeated to our disbelief and despair. The residents of Middleton have been misled by representative of District Council from the very beginning of the process. We were told repeatedly that Middleton was not seriously being considered, only to be blindsided last December by its inclusion in the final list. For weeks we have been assured that Middleton was to be paused, but yet again here we are. It is no surprise, therefore, that the residents feel extremely worried by the whole process, have little faith in the District Council, and we feel a need to represent ourselves and our concerns at this meeting. Clearly, Ashbourne requires some urgent action, and the urgency alone makes the Middleton site unsuitable. As was stated by one councillor at the last meeting, the chance of getting planning permission at Middleton is impossible if the criteria and moral stance used to refuse the Rosalie application are applied. And other councillors agreed with him. So if Middleton is to be put back in the fray, then I believe, as stated by Councillor Archer, all possibilities should be considered. Out of the 31 sites originally listed on the HC6 site assessment, 26 sites were deemed more suitable than Middleton. All those higher scoring sites should be reconsidered. In summary, the site in Middleton, by the council's own criteria, is totally inappropriate, but we feel like the village concerns have been overlooked and that we are seen as a soft touch. And to quote Mo Salah, we've been thrown under the bus. Middleton residents have tried to lobby in a professional, informed way, and we have not made some of the outrageous objections that some potential sites have done. I understand the pressure the committee is under in dealing with the issues in Ashbourne, but Middleton is not a solution to those problems. And I would urge you to remove the Middleton site going forward to save the council from wasting further costs on pursuing an inappropriate site. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dinsdale. And now Councillor Denise Brown from Ashbourne Town Council.
Thank you. Ashbourne Town Council hereby submits a formal objection to the planning application for a temporary traveller site at Watery Lane, Ashbourne. The council maintains that the proposed development is contrary to the intended and legally established land use and would result in significant harm to the surrounding environment and community. We have 5 points for our objections. 1, it's a breach of existing land covenant. The land in question is subject to a restrictive covenant specifying that its use is limited for storage, parking, cemetery-related operations. The proposed traveller accommodation falls outside these permitted uses, allowing the development would breach the covenant and undermine long-standing protections governing this land. 2. Inappropriate proximity to the cemetery. Watery Lane borders cemetery grounds that serve the residents of Ashbourne and the wider area. The introduction of a temporary residential site at this location is considered highly inappropriate due to the need to ensure a respectful, quiet environment for reflection and mourning, and the potential distress caused to grieving families attending burials or visiting graves. Ashbourne Town Council holds strong concern for preserving the dignity and sensitivity within this important community space. 3. Poor environmental sustainability. The location sits adjacent to the refuse and waste management operations. The area is therefore unsuitable for residential occupation on the basis of possible odour, noise and air quality impacts, general incompatibility with domestic living conditions, potential health implication for families, including children who may be placed on the site. The Council believes that no residential development should be permitted in a location with such environmental disadvantages. 4. Unjustifiable public expenditure. To render the site habitable, substantial financial investments would be required, including the installation of essential utilities and access infrastructure, ongoing monitoring and maintenance responsibilities. The cost would ultimately fall to local taxpayers, placing an unreasonable burden on public finances at a time when prudent budgeting is essential. 5. Protection of community interests. Ashbourne Town Council is clear that its objection is not based on discrimination or prejudice against the travelling community. Rather, the opposite reflects the inappropriateness of this specific site, the need to ensure responsible land stewardship and the protection of community assets and welfare. The Council remains willing to support the identification of more suitable locations within the district where appropriate facilities could be delivered. The conclusion is that for reasons detailed in my report, Ashbourne Town Council concludes that the proposed temporary traveller site at Watery Lane is contrary to existing legal land use restrictions, detrimental to the cemetery and its users, unsuitable for residential occupation, a disproportionate financial burden on the local community.
Can you draw your remarks to a conclusion, please?
Ashbourne Town Council therefore requests the planning application is refused.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Next speaker is Lucy Mellors. The microphone's on and you have 3 minutes when you start. Thank you.
I live in Middleton and my name's Lucy Mellors. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I know that you've been dealing with the task of finding a site for the travellers for many, many years, and I think some of you may well have visited the site at Middleton in 2022 when it was deemed wholly inappropriate. Well, nothing has changed in the intervening years. It is still an exposed, windswept site with no shelter from the elements, no privacy, no electricity, no water, no sewage, no hard standing, no local amenities, and no safe access from the 60-mile-per-hour road. It simply isn't suitable for habitation in a caravan. And the specialist legal and professional planning advice that we've received confirms that the site just isn't viable. Currently, the land is a small holding, tended by a tenant who's been there since 1988 and whose family have had breeding and grazing rights on the land for 60 years. This isn't a car park. This isn't a piece of wasteland. These are fields with sheep on them. And as you know, once you build on virgin grazing land, you can never restore it to its original state. The environmental damage is not temporary, it's permanent. Moreover, you're planning to evict from the land a tenant who loves it and who wants to stay there, and replace him with a family who have told us that they really don't want to live there. Morally, let alone legally, that's quite hard to justify. Added to that, By your own site assessment, Middleton fails outright on three of the 9 HC6 categories. It's doubtful on 2. And of the remaining 4, 3 are based on incorrect or incomplete information. That only leaves one category which is uncontested, which is the risk of flooding. And that's hardly surprising because, as Councillor Slack keeps on telling you, the land is 1,000 metres above sea level and absolutely freezing for most of the year. I know that you're probably keeping Middleton in play in order to keep your other options open. But I hope it's clear that Middleton is not and has never been a suitable or a realistic option. So please take it off the table and concentrate your valuable time and resources on finding a permanent site. Thank you.
And now John Hewitt.
Evening all.
Evening, John. The microphone's on, so you just
Yes,
settle
thank
yourself down and then have 3 minutes from when you start to speak.
Thank you. I'm here to put forward a permanent solution. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to this committee. What I really need is an opportunity to speak in person to relevant officers and members to discuss the real way forward. In my recent email, setting out my position on discrimination, I trust you have all read it. Dr. Siobhan Spencer has a copy of the response from the Equality Act Service. They confirm that the long-standing failure of this council to provide permanent pitches for travellers is discrimination, especially despite having approved a site at the Woodyard for 8 permanent pitches. The remedy is to take the reasonably necessary steps to enable the council or travellers to occupy the site, initially as a matter of emergency and then as permanent provision. This will save the ongoing 20-year waste of resources and impact on all concerned by pursuing almost eternally temporary measures. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, John. The next speaker is Anne Smith.
I just didn't want to have my back to officers.
Sit here and then the office.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. The microphone's on, so when you start to speak, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. The travellers then. Ashbourne residents have for the last 20 to 30 years been plagued by so-called travellers. We've been subjected to verbal abuse, sexual harassment, sexual assault, theft from hospitality establishments, breaking and entering, general rubbish and fecal mess. That's just to name up a few. This has resulted in a massive cost to this council that is being paid for by residents. Derbyshire Dales District Council have failed time and time again to find a permanent site. They've allowed these travellers to ride roughshod over Ashbourne, and you're no further forward. We're constantly told by DDDC that the family want to come to Ashbourne because they have family which is local. Their family is actually in Uttoxeter, so it's like saying they want to come to Ashbourne because they've got family in Derby. I understand that this is not even a planning issue. The people I've been talking to, they want to go to Middleton or the Woodyard. I know plenty of people who would like to live in Ashbourne because they're from there and they've got family there. But A, they can't afford it, or B, they're so far down the housing list that they've got no chance. These travellers seem to be Teflon coated, and the concerns of Ashbourne people are constantly dismissed. Putting them down Watery Lane is another kick in the teeth to us. We know what will happen. DDDC will say, well, they've been down there temporary, so we'll make it permanent. We're sick to death of being told that you've got a statutory duty. That doesn't wash with us anymore. Ordinary people have had their worries and wishes dismissed over and over again. I notice parking charges have increased this year. Is this to preempt losses incurred on the car parks due to the illegal encampments? Regarding Watery Lane, Derbyshire Dales don't own the site, DDC own the site. And as far as I'm aware, they won't sell or rent the site. But the council is just forging ahead, again, riding roughshod over everyone under the umbrella of the Housing and Planning Act 2016. I understand that traveller sites have to have brick-built kitchens and bathrooms, as well as the extra-large pitches. The site, in our opinion, is not big enough. It's next to a cemetery and a tip, again, not suitable according to the gov.uk recommendations. The covenant states what the land should be used for, and it's not a traveller's site. With hundreds of locals who work for Nestle still living and disgusted at the thought of this becoming a traveller's site. Those buried in the cemetery must be turning in their graves. The land is earmarked for a bypass should we ever get one. You've put a provision, I believe, of £200,000, which has been identified, and you admit it's going to cost a lot more. We're sick to death of the Discrimination Act 2010 being quoted at us and being called racist. It seems that everyone is fighting their corner, including the police, but as far as I'm aware, no prosecutions have taken place. Not one of you sitting on this council wants them in your backyard. Ask yourselves why. You don't need me to spell it out.
Finish your presentation, please. Thank you very much. Thank you. The last speaker is Janine McCarthy. The microphone's on, so you just
Thank you.
speak.
Thank you, and thanks everybody for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name's Janine McCarthy and I'm from the village of Middleton. I wanted to just share with you the impact that the indecision about the temporary travellers site is having on Middleton. The hope that we had going into the last meeting was that common sense was going to prevail and Middleton and Matlock Bath were going to be put on hold while you focused on finding a permanent site. We watched with dismay as the meeting unfolded and the amendment was dropped because of the urgent situation at Clifton Road in Ashbourne. This is causing the residents of Middleton considerable distress now, not least those people who have grandparents, parents, siblings and recently deceased children and grandchildren buried in the graveyard next to the proposed travellers' site. They worry that any temporary Harris fencing will not be adequate to preserve the tranquillity and peace of the graveyard while they tend the graves of their loved ones. Or the current tenant on the land who doesn't know if he is coming or going, but still has to buy sheep and care for his animals, not knowing if the council is going to try to evict him. He is in limbo and understandably worried. Or those of us who have been writing to the planning department with our concerns about the site, who hoped that the council had finally seen sense. The proposed site at Middleton isn't suitable for anyone to live in a caravan, let alone what we believe to be an elderly couple with perhaps vulnerable, dependent adults alongside. This is an isolated location with no medical or day-to-day living facilities close by, which will impact their health and social care needs. As a village, we have stood back and watched and listened patiently, whilst also gathering evidence and expert knowledge to contest any application for planning. Given that Roseley, which was on paper much more suitable site, failed planning, it seems unlikely that Middleton, which has many more drawbacks, and will require considerably more expenditure will pass. The amendment on the agenda at the last meeting seemed to recognise this, and we appreciated that. We would ask you to reinstate that and take Middleton off the list, put an end to this state of flux and constant anxiety, and to focus on that permanent site, which we know is really very important for our district. Thank you.
Well, that concludes the questions from the public here this evening, but there are a number of questions from local residents who may or may not be here tonight. So the first one is from a local resident. It says, as Clifton Road seems to be the car park of choice for the travellers, will councillors consider the height barrier proposal first accepted as a possibility by officers in 2023? And the response to that is that as Clifton Road is the only coach park facility in Ashbourne, it has 6 coach spaces. There are also several challenges which would need to be considered and could possibly prevent this moving forward. These are engagement with coach companies to understand general specification required, reduction of tree canopies, single track access point, reduction in coach spaces, parking spaces, apparently from 6 down to 2, and redesigning Clifton Road to accommodate additional car parking spaces. If members would like this option to be progressed, there currently is no budget for this work, so costs would need to be obtained and for this to be added to the Capital Works programme. The inclusion of this project may impact others which are already on the corporate plan, such as the car parking review. The next question from another local resident is, I would like to thank officers and members of this committee for putting this agenda item forward today. In particular, I have a question on point 5 of the recommendations, which acknowledges the need for contingency options in the form of alternative temporary sites other than the site proposed today. In the immediate future, these temporary sites may be needed. For example, if they move to the District Council's depot in Mayfield Road is voted on to proceed, but unfortunately meets a problem, or the travellers move to the new site but leave as they don't like it and return to Clifton Road or another unsuitable site in the Dales. Whilst point 5 addresses the selection of temporary sites, it does not ensure that these sites will be available by the end of the meeting, the next meeting, that is on the 15th of January 2026. To be certain of this, firstly, the Housing Operations Manager must have actually identified, assessed and reported those sites to this committee prior to the meeting on the 15th of January. Given point 6C of the recommendations includes an update of the identification of contingency sites to be given at the meeting on the 15th of January, I assume that this is a time frame which hopefully will be met. Secondly, assuming this committee has proposed sites reported to them by the 15th of January, this committee has to vote to approve at least one site or more to cover occupation at all times of the year, and there's a real possibility that agreement may not be achieved at the meeting on the 15th. The effect of not approving a site could mean that the current detrimental impact on residents and other vulnerable persons would continue for much longer than necessary, which is plainly unfair. Will members therefore consider an amendment to extend the agenda item 4, recommendation point 5, before the recommendations are voted on today? The amendment offers more certainty to residents that by the end of the meeting on the 15th of January, temporary sites will be in place for immediate and future use. It still allows for the transparency of a vote in a public meeting by members, but if the latter is inconclusive, it offers an alternative course of action to ensure temporary sites are put in place. So currently, point 5 is that the Housing Operations Manager be authorised to identify and assess potential temporary sites as a contingency option for the named traveller family currently at Clifton Road Coach Park. Any proposed site will be reported back to this committee for approval before implementation. The amendment for your consideration will be in addition to point 5 and follow on from the above as follows. Further, that in the event of this committee is unable to, on the 15th of January, to reach an agreement and do not approve of any of the proposed sites identified and reported to them by the Housing Operations Manager, authority be delegated to officers to approve one or more of the said proposed sites. Should no sites or not enough sites to cover occupation at all times of the year have been reported to this committee by the 15th of January, this authority to delegate to officers be carried forward to subsequent meetings where sites have been identified and reported to this committee, but none or not enough have been approved. The response is that it's either my response or the officer's response, but it's the same thing really. I have considered the amendment suggested to recommendation, but I do not feel that an amendment is required. And now a question from James Wilson. At the last meeting, discussions were had around using council depots as sites to house travellers. Has this consideration been followed up on? And if so, has any work been done to prepare sites for this in Dallydale or Northwood and Tinkersley? The response is that, and I agree 100% with this because I didn't know anything about this site, no consideration is being given to any other council department or depot apart from the Ashbourne depot, which is the subject of the report at this evening's committee. And finally, a question from, or a statement from Stephen Tomlinson, Northwood and Tinkersley Parish Council. At the last CNE meeting, Councillor Marilyn Franks, the previous chair of the District Council Gypsy and Traveller Working Group, referred to possible use of depots as temporary traveller sites. Can the chair confirm tonight if any preparatory work has been done in relation to the use of the District Council depot at Harrison Way in Northwood, Dallydale for this purpose, and exactly which members and officers have been involved in those negotiations? I certainly haven't, by the way. No consideration is being given to any other council depot apart from the Ashbourne depot, which is the subject of the report at this evening's committee. Right. Okay, thank you. Right, moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is interests, member interests. Do members have any specific interests? No? Right, well, thank you. So we move on to the meat of the meeting, I suppose, which is item 4, temporary gypsy and traveller site identification. So I call on Simon Bainham to introduce this report and item.
Thank you, Chair. The report sets to update members of the current position regarding an authorised encampment on District Council land, Clifton Road Coach Park, Ashbourne. We recognise the impact of this encampment and have received contact from schools in relation to concerns when dropping off for swimming lessons and concerns raised by the Town Council and local residents. We're also aware of the detrimental impact on the traveller family itself. It's necessary to consider alternative... Sorry, a bit closer. Sorry. So we recognise it's necessary to consider alternative options that may be available which could be regarded as being more appropriate than the site of Clifton Road. In consultation with the Progressive Alliance, a series of options have been identified and these are set out in the report and the recommendations. We've looked to explore the options to bring the District Council depot at Mayfield Road, Ashbourne forward as a temporary site. However, this raises a number of issues and challenges as set out in the report. I'm aware members will have a lot of questions in relation to the proposal set out. There are officers here tonight to support in answering these questions, including Community Environment Services, Legal, Housing, Homelessness, Planning, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Simon. Have any members any questions of Simon at this point? Oh, yes. And then Councillor Lees. And Councillor Hobson. Right.
Thank you, Chair. Question. Have we actually entered into any dialogue with Nestlé over this particular site? And if we haven't, why haven't we? And if we have, when did we start those conversations and communications?
Yeah, through you, Chair. As far as I'm aware, we've had no approach to Nestlé for this specific purpose to change the covenant because members have not directed officers to do so, which is the position that we're in. We're waiting for members to direct how we are to proceed in this matter.
Okay. You can do, yes.
Thank you, Chair. It's almost like we've decided that, it's not necessary. I mean, I've heard this site mentioned in years gone by. A simple communication to Nestlé might have shed some light on what their attitude might have been. Now we're racing around at the 11th hour trying to, consider this site seriously. I mean, best will in the world. These things with covenants take a long time.
Yeah.
Sorry, okay. I know how you guys are going to vote tonight and whatever, but okay, Just hold your horses. Right, okay, so how can we sort of give confidence to the people of Ashbourne that we're not railroading this site into consideration, even though we haven't really done our homework and got, you know, any sort of commitment from Nestle?
I'm happy to answer that question, Chair, through you. I think the important consideration here is that officers have no authority to do anything unless members direct them on any traveller issue. Following the lead meeting that we had a couple of weeks ago, members clearly wanted to bring a paper back to you for consideration in terms of what the options may be in terms of dealing with the current situation at Clifton Road. This is one option for members to consider. Clearly members will take a view on this evening, but there is also very clearly set out in the report the commitment, should members agree, to actually bring a further report to the meeting of this committee on the 15th of January, which would deal with issues that we would progress in light of whatever decision you may make this evening. So I think Councillor Murphy makes a very valid point, but having the time to then progress with some of these issues between whatever decision you make this evening and the 15th of January will allow officers to do that necessary further work and evaluation.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Next question from Councillor Lees.
Thank you, Chair. Three really. We keep having these meetings, Holmesford site's on the table. Why can it not come to another full council? It should be discussed, it should be taken forward. The second question is, why has the site already been cleaned out? There's nothing in the site, the depot site. It's been cleaned out, preempting this decision tonight. It's totally wrong in my opinion. Why has it been cleaned out? It's like a predetermined decision's already been made. And also, the third question is, 400 square metres of site, I'm presuming we've got at least 4 caravans. 400 square metres for 4 caravans is going to soak up the best part of 100 square metres in caravans. How are you going to get the required measurements, distances between the caravans, vehicles, etc., for particular incidents such as fires? It doesn't meet, or it's not big enough to meet the regulations, in my opinion. Could I have the answers, please?
Chair, I'll pick up the question in terms of the site being cleared, if I can. Since we did the Clean and Green review, which most members, I hope, will recall, it was a few years ago, the majority of staff and equipment was cleared from that site as part of centralising the team to Northwood Depot. We still do use that site for storage of vehicles, machinery and equipment. We still have a member of staff that is based there. We do have vehicles there. Unfortunately, we've had some stolen in recent weeks, so they aren't present on site, but we do have the sweepers, the road sweepers that are based there, as well as other equipment. But I can understand where Councillor Lees is coming from, because in previous years there was a lot more going on the site than there is currently.
Okay, come back then, Chair. Well, if that site's still being used, or part of the site's still being used, how are we going to ensure that, A, the member of staff that's leaving the vehicle down there is going to be safe? Access, are they going to be gained access? Because I know full well people wanting to park on the car park where they are sited at the moment, they get moved off the car park or blocked in by the traveller family. So I could see our workforce being penalised trying to get to work, and I don't think it's on.
I can comment on that, Chair. I'm happy to do that, and you know, I think again Councillor Lees raises a valid point. It won't be without its challenges. I don't think that they're saying that it will. We've tried to cover some of that in the main body of the report. I was there yesterday, chatting to staff on site. There are things that we will have to do to try and make it more appropriate when you've got a traveller family on there, as well as making it safe and secure for the family, also making it safe and secure for staff that are using the facility. I don't think we're under any illusion that there will be some challenges around this.
Can you answer to me question regarding the size of the site?
I'll take that one, Chair. Yeah, I mean, we did a site visit yesterday and had a look. I didn't get my tape measure out to know exactly what the site size was, but obviously there's two distinctive parts of that site, and looking at the size from the visit yesterday, we felt that it would be suitable for that number of caravans if that was passed forward by members tonight to take that forward. But we'd need to look at obviously how those caravans were set out, where those additional vehicles would go, and how much of the site we would lend itself to that actual caravan site itself, and whether we partition any of that off.
Can I come back on that one, Chair?
Yes,
well, to me, these sort of answers should be readily available now, because what's the point of looking at a site that probably isn't suitable? Well, isn't suitable. Full stop. So we're wasting everybody's time. We've got a site on the table, Holmesford. Thank you.
I don't think that requires any further comment, to be honest. Obviously, Holmesford is not on the agenda tonight and hasn't been on recent agendas, but even though some people would like it to be returned to the debate. But in terms of the size of the site, I think it was quite clear to officers yesterday at the site meeting that it would be adequate in terms of area and suitability for a traveller family if necessary.
Not when four caravans, at least 4 caravans, take 100 square metres up. You need 6 metres between each caravan. Where is the measurements coming from?
Site was agreed tonight to be taken forward, then we'd have to have detailed plans drawn up for it, for a planning application, for instance, apart from anything else, and it would have to be ratified by a future committee meeting, I suspect. So, question from Councillor Hobson.
Thank you, Chair. Ash says that he had negotiations with staff on the site. Was a union representative also in attendance?
Just to be clear, Chair, I said discussions, not negotiations with staff. It's understanding the practicalities of using that site for possibility of travellers being sighted there, as well as using it as a depot, whether it would be possible to use it for split purposes. We're not at a stage where we need to have a discussion with the union. HR have been involved and engaged with the member of staff. We're just making them aware, depending on what decision members make tonight, we will always follow due process.
Just make a comment and I'll come back on another question on that. I think that's probably inappropriate to speak to member staff about something so important without a union person being in attendance. I've got a query from someone else. There's a facility there where the road sweeper empties into a specific drain. If this can't be used, it would have to be taken 3 miles to peak waste, which I understand would be a considerable extra cost to this council. Can you tell me how many times this additional cost would take place and what additional cost that would be to the council? Thank you.
I'll take that, Chair. That's absolutely correct. We would need to find another facility where we have a washdown facility for the road sweepers. It's going to cost approximately £15,000 additional a year in order to undertake that. We do need to do it because the road sweepers need to be washed down after each use. Basically, when they tip off, it has to go into a filtration system, so it needs to be suitable. We have made inquiries, as Councillor Hobson quite rightly points out. We found a site at Peak Waste where we can do that, but it comes at an additional cost.
Thank you for that clarification. And my final question just at this point is, obviously with that vehicle down there, the other vehicles, there's the health and safety of both the travellers that are there and also the workers as well. Bearing in mind what Councillor Lisa said about the size of that site, my view is that it's unsuitable to have travellers in a working environment such as that. Can you comment on that, please?
I can, Chair, and I do share some of those concerns. I think that considerations that we've been discussing are whether you could use it as a dual purpose site for the travellers and for the clean and green team, or actually would we be better vacating the site entirely for a clean and green purpose on a temporary basis. And I think officers are favouring the latter at this moment in time. We'll consider options depending what decision members make tonight, but we do have options, but it does feel like vacating the site is a more suitable outcome.
Can I just come back then, because that's not come out until I've asked you the direct question. So obviously that's going to be more than £15,000 a year, isn't it? Temporary. To get another site. And when we talk about temporary, I think Councillor Whitehead said last time, temporary could be years in relation to Matlock Bath. So I think it's a bit unrealistic to say about temporary. So can you tell me where the other sites you are considering, should they have to vacate?
Well, we centralised the team, as members will recall, and mentioned earlier about the Clean and Green Review. We centralised the team to Northwood Depot. So the vast majority of the staff leave from there across the district. The purpose of retaining the Ashbourne Depot was for ease, really. Logistics, having machinery, equipment based down there, help service the south of the district. We could return most of that equipment to Northwood Depot, but we're conscious that we are struggling with storage capacity at Northwood, so we would have to look at some of our other sites that we have, such as Tinter's Yard. We've already mentioned peak waste in terms of the sweepers, so that there are a suite of options, and the staff have worked hard to try and mitigate potential measures or decisions that come out of this evening and the impact that it would have on the service. But I think I've been clear throughout the discussions that it will come with a challenge. It could have some impact on the service, but we're doing our best to mitigate that.
Thank you, Ash. Councillor Archer.
Thanks, Chair. I just want to pick up on the issue of the temporary permanence. I understand a lot of the concerns raised by Ashbourne Town Council and the Allotments Association. And one of the things Ashbourne Town Council mentioned was they're concerned that if you put a temporary site there now, that is the precursor for it to become a permanent site. So I just could the officers clarify what the process will be? My understanding is, I would like, if you can clarify this, that there would need to be a completely new process gone through planning, etc., to establish a permanent site there. And just because if we do vote tonight for this to be set up allowed as a temporary site to resolve the emergency situation on Clifton Road, that does not mean it's in any way precursor to becoming a permanent site. Could officers just clarify that if possible, please?
Yeah, I'm happy to clarify that, Chair. I think there's a direct parallel here between decisions that the Council took back in December of 24, whereby at that point you identified a number of sites to be progressed through planning, and the one site that was granted planning permission as a result of that process was Station Car Park in Matlock, and that planning permission has been limited to 2 years. So in terms of a temporary planning permission that may be secured on this or any other site, I suggest you would be looking at a similar period, because the corporate priority is still to progress as quickly as possible to the identification of a permanent site option.
Councillor Archer, you want to come back on that?
Yeah, I absolutely understand that. So you're saying it would literally be whatever we decide, 1 year, 2 years, whatever, and then there would have to be an entirely new process if anyone did decide to make it, they wanted to make it a permanent site, it would have to be an entirely new process. This wouldn't be a stepping stone towards permanent. Just want to clarify that.
Yes, at that point you would effectively require a new planning permission. Members would have to reconsider the whole issue of traveller site provision, and you would make the decision at that particular time. But as I say, the direct parallel is the situation we have at Matlock Station.
Do you have another question, Councillor? No, right.
I would direct this question through you, Chair, to Mr Wilson. Are we still looking for permanent sites actively? Are we still, is anybody still checking? Like the previous head of housing would, along with ARC, he'd be going through himself weekly what property was on the market. He'd be in very regular contact with a consultant. Is somebody still within the town hall actually checking out what is available on some of the websites, what land is coming up? Are we still actively looking for land, basically? That's my question.
Through you, Chair. Well, following the last meeting of this committee where members considered the ARC Stage 3 report, that clearly brought to a conclusion the extent of the ARC commission. So we haven't commissioned anybody to undertake any work on our behalf at the present time. The indication to come back to this committee on the 15th of January is to effectively pick up that further strand of work. So whilst we do come across sites that are being advertised on the open market, sites that are progressing through auction, we are not actively pursuing any other sites at this moment in time.
Come back, Councillor Franks.
Yes. Do we as a committee need to, at that meeting, come up with proposals to direct you to appoint new consultants, or have we capacity within our housing officers to do that work? Or do we need to be looking at funding additional posts for housing?
Well, through you, Chair, that report on the 15th of January will consider a number of options in terms of how the Council may progress this whole issue. Clearly, over many years, we have pursued many different approaches, but we will be revisiting that issue on the 15th of January.
Yeah, could I just clarify something here, because I'm quite astonished that a senior member of the Progressive Alliance has just asked officers if we're looking for permanent sites. So could you confirm that the council currently doesn't have any strategy for looking for permanent sites, as seems to be the case, since the senior member of the Progressive Alliance doesn't know herself?
Well, through you, Chair, the decision that you took only a matter of weeks ago in this committee was that the site at Watery Lane was to be progressed with the County Council. That continues to be progressed. So you've decided that that is the site to be progressed at this moment in time. There is nothing beyond that which the Council is actively pursuing.
Thanks, Chair. I'm not sure which officers will address this, but assuming we were minded to pass this proposal this evening, can someone walk me through what will happen between now and the 15th of January?
Just to clarify, Councillor, is this, in what sense are you talking about the process from discussing this with the travellers, or?
A number of things will happen, which is why I wasn't quite sure where to address it, because I suspect there will be multiple strands, and I don't know if one person has that big picture, but it would just be nice to know what will happen between now and mid-January, because this tells you the high-level stuff, but it doesn't actually tell you what's going to happen.
Through you, Chair. Yeah, in relation to travellers themselves, obviously we'd go and discuss it with them and make sure that they were happy with that move. Again, I'm going to sort of quickly pass on to Ash, because I think the actual sort of process of doing this is going to take a little bit longer than initially was anticipated in relation to preparing that site. Pass to you for that.
Okay. Thanks, Simon. In terms of practical terms, Councillor Nash, for the depot, we will have to look at security to the site, so the purpose-built storage for facilities. We've got two lots, which is why I referred to those. We've got temporary storage facilities. They will need to be relocated, so we need to find a suitable site for those. We will need to secure the on-site storage facilities, the purpose-built ones. We will need to start negotiations with the employees that are affected. That's when the unions come in. I understand Councillor Hobson's concern, and we would then engage with the unions. We don't need to do that at this stage. It's simply out of courtesy and having those discussions, which we've started. We will look at Harris fencing, the washdown and securing the washdown facility, and making sure that the water supply and the electricity works there are protected and secured and made safe. It's currently a working depot, so certain amendments would be needed to have essentially public on site, including some of the covers that are on there. Isolating any other electrics, removing commando sockets to the washdown area, and should we need to supply water, there'll need to be some fitting works to be done there, looking at how we transfer that to the site, whether there needs to be any extension point from the mains water to where the travellers may be sited, and whether there's going to be any electrical hookups in doing that. So there's quite a few things that we need to do. I think that the challenge here is we're coming into the Christmas period. Depending on what decision members make this evening, we will work at pace as officers, because that will be our instruction, but in reality it will take a few weeks to get some of those things done. We don't have those expertise or contractors in-house, so we will either have to procure or look to contract some companies to deliver on those works.
Come back, Councillor.
Follow-up question, if I can, probably for Kerry. Will we be doing the legal and planning application during this process? The legal bits about talking to Nestlé.
Through you, Chair. I mean, I've been quite stark in my legal advice throughout this report, and I think, however members do decide, and yes, this is a very difficult decision for members tonight, then there will be a programme done in parallel of I don't wish to preempt how you wish to vote, but I can't say that any is without risk, and however you decide to proceed, then it's not that the legal assistance will stop at that point. It will then be to navigate and try and put in place the decision that you make, and that will, if you do vote to resolve to proceed with this, then yes, it would be for immediate planning to be instigated, and also discussions with Nestlé as to as to the covenant on there.
Okay, Councillor.
Councillor G.
Councillor G.
I just wanted to make a little correction as to my last conversation with Paul, because I think he said that you or I took the decision at the last meeting, but it was the council, it wasn't me, because I didn't support that decision.
Councillor. Councillor Hobson again.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify what Mr Wilson had said. Everybody's had the letter, the emails from Derbyshire County Council, and the County Council's formal position on the use of the site remains unchanged. Therefore, it does not support the use of the site at Watery Lane as a traveller's site, as it could prejudice the delivery of the Ashbourne bypass. So that is the current position. How that impacts on the Derbyshire Dales District Council review of the local plan, I don't know, but that is the current position of the County Council.
Councillor Wayne.
Thank you. I'd just like to ask a question in relation to security of this site and monitoring of the site, because should we decide to proceed with this, I'd like to know whether or not there's CCTV already there. If there isn't, there should be. I'd like to know how often the site had been monitored. And I know one or two people who spoke earlier said that, I mean, it's as if Ashbourne's being singled out. I mean, we've had travellers in Matlock for 6 years, and we still have. And I think it's important to have a strategy in place to ensure that these people on the sites, we welcome those people that are on the sites to live there until the permanent site is found, but we need to make sure that they don't get joined by a load of other ones, if you know what I mean. And we've had that on many occasions. So security, monitoring, how can we be assured that the site will be secured and monitored, please. Thank you.
I'll take this, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Wayne. We do have CCTV on site. I think, in all honesty, we would look to try and improve that. We want to do that anyway in light of recent thefts from the area. So that's already been a discussion prior to this. As members probably recall, you approved £15,000 for security bollards to be installed on the entrance gates there as part of the capital programme. We would want to make sure that all the the storage on site is secured. We still may need to access some of it on a temporary basis, but the rest would be secured without access. There was a discussion yesterday, depending on the decision today, we might look to block off certain parts of the compound, which would restrict other travellers from accessing the site. That's something that we will talk through, and we can do that pretty quickly. And in terms of management of the site, we would be doing at least weekly checks on kind of the behaviour, how the site is looking, whether it's kept clean, so on and so forth. In fact, while we were down at the site yesterday, a representative of the Allotment Association attended and asked the very same question. And I think that it's important that we do that. We have a code of conduct in place that we expect the travellers to adhere to. If they don't, then we have measures that we follow up, and we have followed up in other areas. Simon and Vicky Winfield, who most members will know, will have regular liaison and site inspections during the time that the travellers are on site, if that's what members decide they will do.
That's amazing.
Yes, thank you for that comprehensive response. And could I just ask another quick question, please? We've been given a couple of questions, statements here. One from Councillor Hobson. They're both from Councillor Hobson, actually.
Not from me.
Oh, it says email. Oh, two Councillor Hobson. Sorry. Right. I'm just looking at the second one from somebody called Nick Adams, and basically, I presume he is a member at the Derbyshire County Council. So it says the travellers returning to their previous location at the entrance to HWRC could be a good temporary solution. What do you mean? Because is that not contrary to what they were saying about the Watery Lane site? Because they're both very, very close proximity to each other. No, but that's what it does say. I'd just like to clarify that. Sorry if there wasn't a question there. Thank you.
It doesn't really demand a response, does it, as such? But I mean that Mr. or Councillor Adams is asking a question, I suppose. But it's not something that we can answer now, because it's obviously a decision in the future. But obviously the previous temporary site, or the unauthorised site, is something that they could return to, and technically, but we're subject to agreement with the county council, as with all the sites off there, apart from the depot which we own. So that's another consideration.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, Ash, if you vacated the site completely, obviously, will you be having any more staff, or is Ashbourne in the south of the district going to get a second-class service because of man hours in travel time? One question again.
No, we wouldn't want a second-class service. I hope you already know that, Councillor Lees. We are committed to a consistent service across the district. We already have crews that leave Northwood Depot and head to the south of the district every single day already. We've got a unique situation with individuals there that haven't transferred to Northwood, which is not something I want to get into a discussion about, because it's a personnel matter. But we can put measures in place. It does present a challenge. I'm not pretending that it wouldn't. You know, it would see an increased travel time. We wouldn't have necessarily access to equipment as readily as we do at the moment, but we would do our best to find workarounds for that.
Can I just come back, Chair? My second bit of that question is when the Matlock site was agreed, a management plan was going to be put in place. To me, when you drive past it, it doesn't look like there's much management taking place. This site down Water Lane, it's the access road to the sewerage works. Heavy vehicles are going down to that sewerage works every day. First thing in the morning, probably middle of the night. How can you ensure that that road is going to be kept clear?
I'll take that, Chair. I mean, for our responsibility, it's a compound, Councillor Lees. We will work with the travellers as part of the code of conduct, and as I've mentioned, Simon and Vicky have regular liaison with the family, and we would hope that we would have suitable behaviour that keeps the area safe. But the compound is our responsibility.
So, if they were parked on the lane, middle of the night, a tanker wants to go down to the sewerage works, it'd be a police matter and the police would never turn up.
I'm not sure I can comment on that, Councillor Lees. I'll probably pick that up with the police.
But we can't ensure that that road is, even though we're talking about the depot, you've got to go down that road to get to the depot. How can we ensure that road is going to be kept clear? We can't.
I think it's a slightly rhetorical question, Councillor, but I can understand where you're coming from, but I don't think it's necessarily going to be a major issue with that site, personally. Councillor Butler.
Yeah, it's a question for Ash, I think. You know, can you confirm that part of the issue around being able to move travellers on is that currently we don't have a legal site, and so there's nowhere that we can ask them to move to, and so if we have a legal site, it's much easier to have things like the code of conduct, for example, because they're there legally. And so at the moment we've got no legal redress to the site at Clifton Road, for example, because it isn't designated as a temporary site.
I actually don't think that's for me, Councillor Butler. I mean, the code of conduct has proved to see improvement, and we've seen that in other areas. I can comment on that because Vicky sits within my team and we have regular discussions about behaviour and issues that we're encountering, and there certainly has been an improvement in that over time, and I hope that Matlock members will have seen the benefits of that since it was introduced.
Does that answer your question, Councillor?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, right.
Just correct something there, because I think Clifton Road, isn't it our land?
Doesn't matter.
So we must have legal address on our own land, surely.
Through you, Chair, I think what Councillor Butler was saying is that it sort of revolves around the problem that we don't have anywhere to send them to. So if we go through eviction procedures, then part of the court process, they will ask, well, where you go to send them to. Yeah. So this is like the recurring problem that if we did have a permanent site, then that would assist when we are evicting them from places where it is less than suitable for them.
Councillor Murphy again.
Thanks, Chair. So what would make this depot site a legal site? It hasn't got planning permission, and we've obviously got issues with covenants. So some people just agreeing to it tonight won't make it a legal site. Is that correct?
I will try and answer that for you, Councillor. Yes is the short answer to that. And yes, there are lots of legal constraints that would make this site, lawful. Of course, planning. I mean, the covenant that's on this land is very unique to this land, which isn't, it isn't an assessment for any other land, unless there's also covenants on, on that land. But yes, it's an extra legal complication that has, sort of repercussions if Nestlé do intend to injunct. And there's also monetary disadvantages for for proceeding with that. And just for completeness, this covenant that's on the land is a personal covenant that the council entered into. It's not I'm going to have to sort of say this. It's not a covenant that we've inherited by purchasing a land. In 2004, we did agree this. So this is a promise to the to the owner that we would only use the land for this specific purpose. Now, within my report, there is methods, and legal procedures to go through that you can test whether covenants do serve a purpose. But that's not special measures, that's not a knee-jerk reaction, that's a long process and a long legal process to go through. There is an option. And that is an option for members to explore. It's, but there are steps, and it is a complex area. It's not an overnight or even a cheap alternative.
Does anyone want to come back on that? No.
It's a separate question. I've had some dialogue with Ms Francis Reid because I wanted to submit a written question, and for procedural reasons I couldn't, but Mr Yowett's been this evening and spoken again about Holmesford. I'm absolutely appalled to hear that there's no permanent site in the pipeline from what Councillor Franks was saying. Now, I asked, can we have a written evidence of the negotiations with the owners of the woodyard at Holmesford, who was involved in these negotiations, when they took place, together with the costings for the one and only site that already has full planning permission in the Derbyshire Dales. Now, it's quite a comprehensive reply, which I've only just got, so I've not read it in full, but actually the reply is signed by you, Kerry, but actually it says on the advice of the monitoring officer, so I'm not quite sure who's done it. But it just seems ridiculous to me that we go to these meetings and we're voting on things and only a few people have even seen these reports. And part of this answer says, any release of the reports will also require explicit permission from the report's author to ensure legal and governance standards are maintained. Well, surely if we paid for this report, we can have it. Mr Yowett comes time and time again. We're just sitting in the middle here. We've got a site with planning permission. We don't know what's gone off, so I'm with Mr Yowett on this.
But you haven't asked a question, have you?
Well, the question is, did you write these answers to me, or did somebody else write them, Kerry?
Through you, Chair. It was a monitoring at the time which gave the advice. The
previous monitoring officer, one of those?
Yes, yes.
Do you know who?
I mean, my response will still be the same. It was the advice of the monitoring officer, which is a statutory post. So even if I did respond again, it would still say the monitoring officer at the time.
So we're just in the dark.
I think it's very difficult.
Go to debate, Mark.
It's very difficult, Councillor, to ascertain what is required on the site that we don't own. Obviously, we could have discussions, but nothing's going to be in concrete unless we can do a proper survey of a particular site, like the woodyard, and assess exactly what services are there and what services aren't there. But we've always had difficult negotiations with the owners of that site.
Can I just come back? Can I come back on that, Councillor Burford? People say regularly. I'm just going to ask the question. People say regularly in debate, "Oh, the owners have been difficult," or whatever. We've never seen any evidence about the owners being difficult. These are anecdotal things. So I would just like to see some. Can we be provided with some written evidence of when the negotiations took place?
I think we need to move to debate now, Councillor.
Paul just wanted to come in on that point, I think.
Did you want to come back, Paul?
Well, I just want to provide some clarification, Chair, because Officers act on the instructions of members, and members on at least 2 occasions have given a very clear decision that the woodyard is not to be pursued further. So it's for members to determine whether you wish to revisit that issue or not. But despite numerous requests and the same questions being asked time and time again, the Council cannot ignore the legal obligations that it has to comply with, be that GDPR, freedom of information or not. So that's why the responses have been given in the manner that they have. But given that the woodyard does have planning permission, there's nothing stopping the owners of that site making it available to travellers. It doesn't require the intervention of this authority if that's what they wish to do. So there's nothing stopping that coming forward. Council has decided not to progress it further, and Council would need to make a different decision if you wish to pick up that opportunity again.
I'm presuming to make a bid to purchase the site as well. Can we move on to debate now? Yes. Councillor Butcher.
Yes, can I propose the recommendations that the officers have put down? Is that the right thing to do?
Yes.
So if I could just say a few words at the beginning, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to speak later on. But so this is a special meeting called in order to help the situation in Ashbourne. So whilst the options available to the council are limited and there's no site as ever that's a good site, we have to bear in mind that the travellers are currently at Clifton Road, and all the feedback we get about from people in Ashbourne is that that's really unsatisfactory, and that not all people, but certainly most people, seem to think that moving to this site, the depot at Mayfield Road, if it was possible, would be preferable in terms of the people of Ashbourne. So I see this meeting really as trying to help people in Ashbourne, and I'm a little surprised the councillors from Ashbourne seem to be a little bit overly negative about the proposal, but I understand they have concerns, and quite rightly, I'm not diminishing those. There are real concerns. But it seems to me the way in which the report's been written, it is very carefully, and it was a late draft that drew out all the negatives quite as clearly as has been done by the officers, and quite rightly. So it's all in front of the councillors. But looking at it carefully, I think the situation is that there are a number of concerns about planning, about equality impact, about the covenant, and indeed the readiness of the site and getting the site to a ready state. And it's set out for each of those what the steps are to take in order to get it to a position where it's, if not ideal, at least acceptable. There will be an issue about planning, so we won't be able to get the planning permission in place before they go, probably, though we might be able to try to do that. We don't have planning permission for them to be at Clifton Road. So, you know, bear in mind that if we don't move them somewhere like Mayfield Road, then they will stay at Clifton Road with all the negatives there. We haven't got an equality impact or an impact assessment of the residents of the travellers on the local residents, or of the or on the travellers themselves. So at Clifton Road, it's not an ideal place. So whatever we're doing, the decision is balancing between, are we going to try it and put them to offer them Mayfield Road, or are we going to keep them at Clifton Road with all the negative consequences about that? So we must have that at our forefront of our mind. So I think this is an opportunity that's come up. We didn't have the depot at Mayfield Road on our radar until recently, and it's in a sense fortunate. If there is really another site, and people seem to be still reaching for other sites, then great, let's have a look at it. But at the moment, each one of them has been ruled out for a number of serious reasons, including the woodyard. So this is the only site we seem to have available to us. Is it something that's better or less bad than staying at Clifton Road? And if so, then we should pursue it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Councillor. I suppose the other thing I would say actually on this is that we did have, of course, an ideal site at the time in 2015-16. We put in a local plan in 2017 for a site with planning consent off Watery Lane, and of course that was a decision of the incoming Conservative administration at the County Council at the time to withdraw the sale of that site to the council, to this council. And of course that's been confirmed by the present administration at the County Council as well. So these problems wouldn't have occurred if we'd been able to pursue that site with planning consent back in 2017 or whenever. Right, do I have a seconder for the proposed? Councillor, Councillor Franks first, yeah.
Yes, I'm happy to second this proposal, but I'd save saying something towards the end of the debate. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Got a fair bit to say, apologies. First of all, just want to address the people from Middleton and also Matlock Bath, because I'm aware of how I may have come over at the last meeting in terms of their communities, and I just, I'd just like to recognise that and say I hope they understand that the reason I spoke as I did in the last meeting was because we have a live situation with a traveller family who are currently in a legal encampment in a very challenging area, and I just didn't think it was right at that moment to take any options off the table. That does not mean that I think and support the idea of them being in Middleton or anywhere else, so please don't take that personally, people of Middleton. It just felt like the wrong thing to do with a live situation to take any options off the table, and that's all that was about. And apologies if that has caused further stress and anxiety for people in those communities. Next point I'd like to make is representatives of Ashbourne Town Council and the Allotments Association have set out there are indeed many issues with the Mayfield Road depot, and I would not be in favour of supporting it as a permanent site for these issues, because I think there are a lot of issues. But as Councillor Butcher's just laid out, we are in a situation at the moment where we have to find an alternative to an extremely difficult situation that has developed in a highly unsuitable part of Ashbourne, the Clifton Road Car Park. You wouldn't very often find me as a Lib Dem agreeing with members of Reform. It's not really we're not really political allies, but I have to admit, in terms of Councillor Adams from the County Council, I do tend to agree with his assessment that a temporary site in that area around Watery Lane is wholly better than our current situation, and that's therefore I'm leaning in that direction. And maybe my question to officers earlier to emphasise that this is only temporary was designed to try and ensure that is noted. And if anything, the ideas and the sort of concerns of County Council about a possible bypass can hopefully give more reassurance that it's going to only be temporary. And on that point, I would like to really urge everybody around this table and everybody in this council to find a permanent site which is more suitable for everybody. This is more remote for the travellers and for the residents, because no site is ideal. This site we're proposing tonight is not ideal. But we're not talking about ideals, we're talking about realities, we're talking about practicalities, we're talking about a situation in Ashbourne at the moment that has to be resolved and resolved quickly. So my question for all of those putting forward problems and barriers to what we're suggesting tonight is, what is your short-term alternative? You know, it's all very well saying we need a permanent site, what about the wood yard? All these things are going to take months, years, potentially. We have not got that time. We need to find an urgent, short-term solution to our current situation on Clifton Road. Excuse me. So, on this occasion, we just have to find that alternative. We can't accept what's going on at the moment. The current site's proximity to leisure centre, pharmacy, GP surgeries, schools, residents, hospitals, it's just an incredibly unsuitable site. You couldn't imagine a more unsuitable site, and that's why we're having regular issues and regular problems all the time, and that's why I called for this urgent meeting, because it's an urgent situation. It's all very well as sitting around here talking about other options, or this, that and the other. There are no other options at the moment. Yeah, this isn't a brilliant option, but it's our best option, or our least worst option. I would not support it for a permanent site, as I've said, because of the proximity to the cemetery. I have real concerns about that. I have sleepless nights about that in terms of being a member for Ashbourne and voting for this. It's not an easy thing to do. Next to the allotments, not an easy thing to say, yes, we should put it there. We should put this traveller family next to the cemetery, next to the allotments. I absolutely share those concerns, and it's something that I've wrestled with a lot. But if we don't approve this tonight, what are we left with? we're left with our car parks across the district completely exposed and vulnerable, as has been proven by what's happened in Clifton Road. So for Ashbourne Town Council and other people of Ashbourne, what I would say to you is, would you rather we do what we're trying to do tonight, or would you rather the traveller family arrive at Shawcroft Car Park or Fish Pond Meadow or Leisure Centre Car Park or the Recreation Ground Car Park? Because that potentially is what's going to happen if we can't find somewhere else for them to go. And that is the harsh reality of this situation. Hopefully, this situation that's arisen has really helped to focus our minds on this issue again. The previous administration for over a decade failed us miserably. We have also not managed to find a permanent site, and therefore here we are, stuck with a Hobson's choice. We just can't keep taking options off the table while this family remain our legal responsibility. We can't keep removing options. We have an option. It's not a great option, it's not a brilliant option, but it's an option that's a hell of a lot better than what we've got right now. And we've got to take this opportunity to go along with what Councillor Adams has suggested and approve this as a temporary site for now, and then make sure we get our flipping fingers out and find a permanent site so this does not become a permanent one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor G.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you to Councillor Archer for that. But what I'd like to do to allay the concerns of residents in Middleton by Wirksworth and Matlock Bath, I'd like to add a recommendation to tonight's recommendations. I think there's quite a lot on that paper. There's about 7, isn't there? And the recommendation is to remove the sites at Matlock Bath and Middleton by Wirksworth from consideration as temporary or permanent sites, and that's remove them completely. So I'd like to add that as a recommendation, and I'd be calling for somebody to second me on that, please.
No seconder.
Oh, I'll second. I thought you might want to second it.
Yeah, then basically I think this is something we need to put to bed. It's come up at the last meeting. It obviously gained quite a lot of support. Matlock Bath's done its duty, as far as I'm concerned, where travellers are concerned. And we know that the Middleton by Wirksworth site is totally unsuitable, the same as we found at the planning application of the one in Roseley. So I think we should put that to bed so we don't use those sites as some sort of scapegoat, has been suggested, because we don't want that. I don't think Councillor Archer wants it either. You know, you've got to look elsewhere, but I think we should just remove those, delete them completely, like they should have been years ago, really. But let's just do it tonight as a council. So that's an additional recommendation on the paper.
Yes, do you want to confirm the wording so that Kerry can get that down?
Quite simple. The recommendation is to remove or delete, whatever you'd like to put, the sites at Matlock Bath, which is in the station car park, and Middleton by Wirksworth, the one that's been suggested to go for planning permission, from consideration as temporary or permanent sites for travellers. I think that's quite simple, and we can just vote yes or no for it.
Can I ask a question about it?
Well, we need to debate it now. It's been proposed and seconded, so we can debate that particular clause in addition to the ones that are on the table already.
I just wanted to seek some advice off Kerry. So
well, you can do that. Yeah.
So obviously, I'm very supportive of kind of Gareth's sort of kind of an alteration. The only point of order I just wanted to check with Kerry is, obviously it was a full council decision, wasn't it, that kind of put our sites there, and I just asked, are we allowed to overturn a full council decision in C of E? Or can we just make a recommendation for it to go back to full council? Just want to make sure Gareth's recommendation is spot on.
I think I can give you some answer on that, because it's a long time ago that we made that decision. It's more than 6 months. And plus, I'm aware that decisions made in committees are council decisions, because I've had that with my motion where they've been banned because of, you know, when I wanted to put motions about the local plan, and I did question this, and it's very clear that decisions in committees, full committees, are council decisions. Whether you need to ratify it to full council, I don't think you do. But if you do, fine. Take it to full council afterwards. But we need to vote on it tonight and, you know, let the experts decide where it goes from there.
Would any member like to contribute to the amended proposal then?
Yeah, through you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, myself and Councillor G have had lots of conversations about the 6-month rule, and my interpretation is, yes, he's correct that in mind, when we're in council, there are officer decisions and there are member decisions. All member decisions are decisions of the council, and then officer decisions, and that's where I'm differentiating between you know, members and trying to set the time limit, because it doesn't stop notices, it doesn't stop a reversal of decisions, it just lays out the expectation of what the process is should you wish to revert a decision within that 6-month period. So I think, Councillor, your question was when was the is this the correct sort of way forward? And I actually don't know when the decision was to. Was it December 24? So I think. Yeah. So if that's the case, there hasn't been another decision within the last 6 months, then yes, this then a decision can be revisited.
Yes, thank you. I'm speaking to the amendment as it's been put, whether it's valid or not. The point I'm making is that this is a special meeting to deal with a single issue, which is about Ashbourne Clifton Road, and the amendment is an irrelevant item in that regard. And we just, I'm not saying we're making a decision about Middleton and Matlock Bath this, but we shouldn't make a decision about it, whether to keep it on or to delete it. So I think we should oppose this motion, this amendment.
Hobson.
I can't believe what Mr. Butcher's just said. Have you not listened to any of those people who've come and spoken about how they felt when they watched the meeting last time, when they thought it was going to be paused and then it wasn't? And I think sometimes we sit round this table, you know, we're pontificating and whatever. There's real people, and I include the travellers in this, there are real people that we're dealing with, and the people that have spoken tonight are the ones that are dealing with this day in, day out. So I will be supporting the amendment.
I don't think it'll surprise anyone that I won't be supporting the amendment because, going back to my original point, we can't just keep taking options off the table. So given a scenario that we managed to pass the Mayfield Road depot, but then we do run up against a problem with the covenant or whatever, and therefore that is not able to proceed, where do we go? If we just keep taking options off the table, where do we go? And you know, that seems to me counterintuitive to remove options from the table at a time when we are looking desperately for options. So, you know, if you make the argument that, I think Councillor G said that Matlock Baths has sort of done its time, for example, served its time, I can't remember the exact phrase, you could make that argument very clearly about Matlock, couldn't you, right now, and say you could move the travellers from Matlock. You could actually very strongly make that argument about Ashbourne right now. It's not a valid argument in my opinion. And again, coming back to what I said at the start when I last spoke, it's not about thinking I want to put a traveller family close to a cemetery in Middleton or back in Matlock Bath where there were significant problems. I get that, but as a matter of principle, to take options off the table when we have no viable option, it seems crazy. It just doesn't seem the right thing to do as a council. So I couldn't therefore support it, the amendment.
Thank you, Chair. I'm losing track now on how many times we've taken these sites on and off this thing. We've voted numerous times. We've removed all car parks, all these pieces of land out of the equation, and they keep coming back. I'd just like to clarify on Councillor Archer's statement from Nick Adams. As I read it, Nick Adams is referring to the site which is owned by the county council, not the district council. The district depot is the depot. Nick Adams was referring to where they were in before, which is owned by the county council, not the cemetery.
Could I just come back on that, Councillor? Just to come back on that, I am aware of that, and I think the way I worded it was in that area of Watery Lane, so it is very close. But yes, absolutely right, that is true. Thank you.
Again, it's a problem of intransigence of the county council in terms of use of their land, which isn't exactly top quality land with an alternative purpose in mind at the moment.
And the drawback to that is as well, the county council are now using that piece of land from this week.
Right. Any further contributions to the debate on the amendment before we have a vote on it? Just briefly.
I disagree with his situation there, because the travellers at Matlock Station, that's a completely different scenario, because that site does actually currently have temporary planning permission. We know that at the last meeting, the paper was designed to pause the sites at Matlock Bath and at Middleton, because you knew very well that they were very unlikely to obtain planning permission. All I tried to do on that evening was just delete them completely, and you just didn't want to do it. I think the idea of keeping them on the table is clearly a directive that you want travellers to go back there at some point. But I don't. I think they need taking off the table and find some more. We've already heard tonight that obviously you haven't made any progress with looking for a permanent site, and you don't seem to know whether officers have made any progress. So that's a bit disturbing personally, but I think we need to just give residents at Matlock Bath and Middleton by Wirksworth some comfort to know that those sites are not going to be considered in the future. So they're not on the table, we want to take them off it.
I assume, Councillor, that's your summing up of the debate on your amendment? Yeah. Right, okay. I think you have to bear in mind what Councillor Archer said, and I agree with entirely. We keep taking sites off, we can't carry on doing that, because the Conservative councillors don't want any car parks being used, they don't seem to want any depots being used, so there's nowhere else that the district council has control over. So that is a big problem in my opinion. But anyway, we'd better, we've had a summing up on the amendment. Do we want to, Councillor Wayne, you've not spoken in this.
No, I'm sorry, but I just want to, because it does weigh heavily, if you know what I mean, because I can see, I've listened to each of these people, and some of them have been here before, and I totally understand what they're saying. But it's about having flexibility in what you're capable of doing as an organisation. And whilst I feel that we should, there is a time when we need to take this off, and it's just unfortunate tonight that it's been brought up now, because I would like to see it come to the 15th in January, where we can discuss this, and it can be, it can be part of the actual agenda. That's what I personally would like to see. I'm not in support of anybody being on at the top of Middleton. I've driven past them all within the last 3 or 4 days, and I've been to Ashbourne and I've looked at the sites there, and the car park at Matlock Bath. I know exactly what it's like, and it's unsatisfactory for the people on Matlock railway station car park. But we've got to retain that flexibility. Something that we voted for in December 2024, and we need to bring it to the meeting on the 15th of January, and we need to thrash it out fully at that meeting.
Can we have a vote now on the amendment then?
Can we have a recorded vote on this, please, on the amendment?
Yeah, okay.
Freya. You need to second it for that.
No.
For the, okay.
But, just the amendment, remember, not the...
Councillor Archer.
Against.
Councillor Buckler.
Abstain.
Councillor Burfoot.
Against?
Councillor Butcher.
Against.
Councillor Franks.
Against.
Councillor G.
For.
Councillor Hobson.
For.
Councillor Lees.
For.
Councillor Murphy.
For.
Councillor Nash.
Abstain.
Councillor Ripton.
Against.
Councillor Wayne.
Against?
Councillor Whitehead.
For.
I've got 6 against, 5 for, 2 abstains.
Right, okay, we can just give the result. Or Freya.
5 for, 6 against, 2 abstentions.
Thank you, that's lost. So we now go back to the original motion and the clauses that have been inserted into this resolution. Does anyone want to speak to the non-amended motion now, or had your say? We can move to a vote on that, sorry. Councillor Hobson.
I will not be supporting any of these recommendations. I would like a recorded vote on these other recommendations. A couple of points I want to make. The Conservative administration previously, which gets loads of stick about this, we took all those sites and the depots off November 2022 so that we could move forwards and give the travellers and the residents, they knew exactly what was happening. In May 2023, you came back and you were going to sort it out, and we're just going backwards. I'm going to say it again, we've got Holmesford on the table. It can be there, it's got planning permission. Let's see this evidence, let's work with them and find a permanent site, because there's obviously nothing else on the table. I will not be supporting these recommendations.
Well done. Councillor Wayne.
I think Councillor Hobson's asked for a recorded vote.
All right, okay, right, okay. Councillor Lees.
Thank you, Chair. Yep, I totally echo Councillor Hobson's words. Can't support any of these. We've been down this route loads of times. I don't see what the difference is between Ashbourne Cemetery and the rest of the cemeteries for one little bit. I can't support it. It's just we're just going round in circles. We've got this on the table. Needs bringing back. The Holmesford site does. We've got no management plan. We've got, if we go and put them on there tomorrow, we're breaking every rule the council's got. Every law, every policy we've got. So, totally against it.
Councillor Butcher, do you want to sum up on the non-amended motion, the original motion?
I'm sure if there's nobody else wanting to speak, but...
I just want to go over some of the points Councillor Archer made. We're in an urgent situation. We're not looking at long term, we're looking at somewhere short term. The depot has only in recent times become less used. It was a very busy depot. It is no longer a busy depot. There's capacity there to use it for more than what was originally arranged with Nestlé. Yes, it's not ideal. There is a cemetery, there are allotments, but if you compare the impact in the centre of Ashbourne to Clifton Road Car Park, the housing, the pharmacy, the doctor's surgery, the coaches, at least there is some privacy. It's distant from the town centre. This is what's needed. It's tucked away down that lane. The time over the past year with the family living in the watery lane, there wasn't too many problems. It's suddenly got all out of proportion. Now they're back on at Clifton Road, the centre of Ashbourne. We need to move them, and we need to move them quickly. This is an opportunity. Yes, there are very serious challenges involved with using the depot site. They're illegal. There's legal covenant, but there are legal methods of dealing with that. Interestingly, Nestlé have, in the last couple of years, really changed, and they've challenged themselves in terms of their human rights actions, and there's all sorts of stuff they post out about the training they've had. And I think they, on a temporary basis, they could be probably very sympathetic to, because this is a humanitarian situation both for the people of Ashbourne as well as the travellers. This is an urgent situation which could very quickly tip into a critical crisis situation. And I just want to stress the urgency of getting around this. And then, yes, we need to apply for planning. Yes, we need to start negotiating. Yes, there is still some equipment that needs to be rearranged or go to the Northwood depot. I would encourage all members to support this as a temporary measure. I only asked about where we're going with permanency to try to emphasise the importance of that. We need to have in place officers or a consultant firm being on top of this week by week, and I think we need to invest in that, and I hope that's something which we can discuss at our next maybe full council, if not the next environmental committee, is putting some more budget in place for that. And I would urge all members to vote for this, to relieve what's happening in the centre of Ashbourne at the minute. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Wayne.
Yes, thank you. Like I said, I drove around the sites the other day, and I did go and visit the one. I saw the one on Clifton Road at Ashbourne. It is an urgent situation, and it's something that we must address as a council. I personally think that and genuinely believe that. It's necessary that we do that. It's reasonable that we take the action, which I hope people will take tonight, to move them to the depot in the short term. It's a proportionate action, and I consider that it is a justifiable action. Thanks to Kerry and everybody else who did the report, the legal part explained it very, very clearly, that what we've got to do, and there's a structure to it, how we should go about it, and I'm putting faith in the officers that that is the case. The travellers stayed on the Derbyshire County Council land for about a year and were satisfied to do that. And that's a lot smaller area. In fact, when it was going to the tip in Ashbourne, I couldn't believe how small that was. And to me, taking, I forget whether it was Councillor Lee's point about the size, it was too small. So, but they were okay there. So hopefully they will engage in this process. It's up to us as an organisation to make sure that we make the site safe, we monitor it, and it's secure for their health and well-being, and also those of the people that are site users nearby. I will be supporting this, and I'd like to thank Councillor Archer for what he said earlier on, because it was excellent. Thank you.
Mr. Butcher, do you want to sum up?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think all the main points have been made. I am shaken a little bit by...
Just interrupt, Councillor. I think Councillor Murphy wanted to speak, but I didn't see his hand up.
Thanks, Chair. That other site in Ashbourne where the travellers were parked illegally, that land belonged to the County Council, as I understand it. We had no jurisdiction. The lights on. Right. Okay, so we're in a totally different situation now, obviously. This is a piece of land that we own. Yeah, I saw you. Yeah, you take the rip all the time, mate. You know, I'm really seriously disappointed that, you know, ARC has let you guys down. You know, they haven't come up with any sites. What have they been doing for the last couple of years? You know, everybody says we need a permanent site and whatever. For some answers, really, because I dread to think how much we've spent. It's created the situation that we're in tonight. Now, we don't have any right to move somebody onto that land if we've got covenants and we haven't got permission. So I think we've got to be careful. I mean, because review or whatever, Kerry could probably fill us in as to the risks and whatever. I'm not comfortable with supporting this for that reason. Now, I've seen the site and, there's facilities there, fencing, whatever, and cameras, but it's more than that. It's a lot more than that. What message are we sending to people if we put them on a site which has got covenants on it and whatever? We haven't actually got the planning yet. We get so annoyed at planning when people, do things on sites and they have to come back for retrospective planning applications. We are in a difficult position. I can't believe we've got ourselves into this situation after all this time. Yeah. So, yeah, it is. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Butler.
Yeah, Councillor Archer was surprised about agreeing with Councillor G. I'm now going to sort of agree with Councillor Murphy, which is an unusual occurrence. I think this has been an issue since I've been on the council, and I was the council member for Roseley, and had conversations with the parish council at Roseley about how, that they should consider that site as a site, because the thing that we needed to do was to find out and sort out a permanent site. And I'm very disappointed that we haven't got further on that. And so I would really like us to have, at the January the 15th meeting, an update on what the requirements are to come forward with a permanent site, because that is still a priority. It was the priority 6 years ago. It must still be the priority. I will be voting in favour of this because I recognise that it's urgent. I wouldn't like us to be doing anything against the covenant, so I think we need to resolve that before we address the issue. But I want us to be doing everything we possibly can to find a permanent site.
Thank you, Councillor. Now I think Councillor Butcher, you can sum up, I believe.
Okay, I think there's been very useful contributions. I was about to say that I was a bit taken aback by Councillor Lees not supporting the motion, because he is a councillor for Ashbourne, and I'm really reliant on people in Ashbourne advising as to what the urgency is of the offering the Mayfield Road to the travellers versus staying at Clifton Road. But if Councillor Lees thinks Clifton Road is the right place to stay, then well, that's the choice. That's what the choice will be. We're either offering them Mayfield Road, or they're staying at Clifton Road. And I think you have to accept that for those people who are opposing the motion. But other than that, I can't speak better than the comments that we've just heard recently as a summing up, so leave it at that point.
Excuse me.
We need to move to a vote now. Point of order.
Yeah, because, I mean, it's not correct for him to say that to Councillor Lees, because Councillor Lees made a really good appraisal of his situation, and that is out of order. Yeah. Sorry.
I do agree where they are isn't correct, but I also don't agree with where you're trying to put them is correct. So that's top and bottom. We have not got the right place.
We've had that debate now, so can we move to a vote? Yeah.
Okay.
The recorded vote has been requested and seconded, I think.
Yeah. Councillor Archer. 4. Councillor Buckler.
4.
Councillor Burfoot.
4.
Councillor Butcher.
4.
Councillor Franks. 4. Councillor G.
Against.
Councillor Hobson.
Against.
Councillor Lees.
Against.
Councillor Murphy.
Against.
Councillor Nash.
4.
Councillor Ripton.
4.
Councillor Wayne.
4.
Councillor Whitehead.
4.
Do we have a result? Fair?
So that's 9 for and 4 against.
Okay, well, thanks very much, members. And thanks very much to members of the public who have come tonight to listen or to speak. Yeah, the motion has been carried. I should have said that, shouldn't I? Yeah. That's the most important thing. Have a safe journey home, and again, thanks for 15th of January, I guess.